Guten Tag, Miss Dieter. Das ist me. So, again, pickups. I'm doing some on my nylon string classical guitars here. So this is going to be about the Fishman Premium Blend. I think it's the upgrade to the Prefix Pro, that old one which I did a review of, that I have on my 18 to, I don't know, it's 15 to 20-year-old flamenco. Anyway, this will be about the Fishman Premium Blend. So that's the intro. Always a story behind a guitar, and Dieter likes to tell stories, so tell story. So the story behind this. This is an Alhambra 7P. Yeah, I think it's called a 7PA CW. PA, I don't know what that means. Alpine spruce, probably. CW means cutaway. These are made in Muro de Alcoy in Spain. Very beautiful guitar. Indian rosewood back and side, solid. Spanish cedar neck reinforced with an ebony strip. Ebony fingerboard. And again, another gorgeous Alpine, European, Norway spruce, whatever you want to call it. Christmas tree top. Superb top. So, I wasn't supposed to have this guitar, so this is the story behind this guitar. A few years ago, probably close to 4 or 5 years ago now, I had an older student, a gentleman, in his, I think, late 70s, who was playing in a church group, and he wanted to play more fingerstyle. And he had a nice electric, I think a Paul Reed Smith, so he wanted to take some lessons, some fingerstyle lessons. And so I showed him my my classicals, and he really liked my flamenco classical. So, you know, he's got a fair amount of money, I think. So I went with him to the 12th Fed in Toronto. This was about, 5-6 years ago. And I said, well, what's your price range? And he said, oh, about $1,000. So I said, oh, we could get something decent for you. So, they're funny. So, we looked at a $600 La Patrie, which is a Godin thing. And it was good enough. I said, yeah, you know, you could get this. Then, okay, so then we looked at, I said, this is fine for what you want to do. No, let's get something nicer. So then we looked at something that was $800. I said, this is nice too, this will do. I can't remember if it was a Yamaha or it could have been the higher end La Patrie model. I said, this is fine, nice guitar. I played them all for him. He's not a very good player, so he wanted me to play him. So then he said, no, let's look at something else. So then we looked at something for $1,100. And I think that was an entry-level Alhambra, and that was nice. Of course, everyone was $300-400 more. It was a little nicer. They were all fine. They all would have been fine. Even for an intermediate or a good guitar player, they were all good guitars if you were just something that you weren't going to use that often, you know, or even if you were. So he liked that. So then, then he looked at a $2,000 Alhambra. That was really nice. I think a Model 5F or something. So then I said, yeah, do you want to spend that much money? He says, no, that's okay. And of course, everyone was better. Sometimes at a good shop, and especially with a company that, you know, you can trust Godin and Alhambra, even though they're fairly big companies. Alhambra especially, and Godin as well, but Alhambra is a leader that they do tons of research in acoustic chambers about bracing and thinning their tops. So even if you get a mid-range Alhambra, it's a very, very good guitar. That's why they're so good. They do a lot of research, and I'm not saying they personally tune probably all the models under the 7s level, like the 3, 4, 5, but they're still very, very good. So what they would do, the same as Godin, they take a medium. They will say, okay, if most of the spruce, and I don't know the thicknesses, but let's say for the sake of argument, if most of the spruce that they use from a particular harvest, they say that most of it sounds like 80% or 90% of its sweet spot is close to, let's say, 3.6 millimeters. What they'll do is they'll mill all that wood to 3.6 millimeters. And let's say they make 1,000, 2,000 tops. You might get a couple hundred that are exceptionally good because that's the sweet spot, and the rest will be okay. They won't be as good. So that's often, I talked about it before, that's why sometimes you'll get a relatively inexpensive, I'm not saying cheap because they're not cheaply made, but that's sometimes why you will find people will have a lower end model that sounds better than your high end model, and you go, what the fuck is going on here? And that's what it is. That and the bracing pattern and the braces and the thickness of the finish. I talk about that often because it's true. I call those happy accidents. You know, happy accident. I very carefully. I usually don't make an impulse buy. Sometimes I spent 5 years looking for a good flamenco guitar. Honestly, you know, I never have had a lot of money at my disposal. And that's another thing that's funny. You look at a lot of these videos. Okay, yeah, listen. It's like, I don't know if you remember back in the day, a guy named Jesse James or whatever had this show called Monster Garage. And I remember my dad, before he passed, he liked to watch that. And I watched it one day and I said, well, you know, Dad, I said, if I had a $2 million garage set up with the best of everything, I would expect if I knew a little bit about it to be able to do good work. I said, this is for a TV. I said, how many garages are like this, man? He's got the best hoists. He's got the best everything. Like, okay, you know, all right, yeah, you better be damn good. And of course, when you have every single tool you need and the best lifts and with clearance and everything, well, if you half-ass know what you're doing, you make it look easy, right? All right, I digress a bit there, but my point is this: you know, Alhambra does. I know this for a fact. They do a lot of work on their tops, and that's why, and it trickles down, you know. So. You know, they'll find something, and so maybe on like a 7F model, which is their entry level to their good stuff. So it's their low-end pro advanced student stuff. The tops are all excellent. The only difference probably between this and a Model 8 or Model 9, then you're getting into, okay, let's say Alhambra has 40 good luthiers, and out of that 40, they probably have 10 that are the cream of the crop. Well, probably when you get into their 8 and 9, 10 series models, those 10 people are the ones that are building the guitar, and they're just taking extra time. That's where the money comes from. They make extra time and effort to make a better guitar. So those guitars, probably not much different quality of the wood-wise, other than they'll have a thinner top, better bracing, it's better tuned, and they're more delicate, and they're more expensive, and that's why they probably take. I don't know, I'm just guessing, maybe they spend twice as long on that guitar, or 3 times as long. Okay? So anyway, the story behind this thing, so then he wanted to look at a 7 model. And he liked the rosewood. And I just kind of looked at him and kind of scratched my head. It's not my money. I said, geez. I said, that guitar is as nice as mine, maybe even arguably nicer because it has more. It's got more punch because it's a deeper body. It's about 1 inch deeper than my flamenco, the top quality is about the same. And I said, wow, you're getting a guitar is nicer than mine. And I talk about this at the time. Like, I'm serious. 90% of the sound is from your top. So, yeah, but you can say, well, hey, Randall, now come on, and I will demonstrate this later. I'll take out my 3 classicals and compare them. That flamenco sounds different. Yes, it does. But the reason it sounds different because it's a shallower body, and Spanish cypress is not a dense wood, and it has a different quality of projection. Now, the back and sides will affect that to some degree, maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10%. But it's not going to make a huge difference, and that's why I say a good quality plywood top. I'm not saying a cheap quality plywood top, but if you have good Indian rosewood solid back and sides, and you have good Indian rosewood ply, 3-ply, I'm not exactly sure, but I challenge you to say that you can hear the difference in that sound. I don't believe it. I think a lot of that is, and don't get me wrong, I have very few guitars actually with plywood back and sides, but the ones I do I'm totally happy with, because most of my, usually when you get over $2,000, you're not going to have that. You're going to have solid. And whether that though is an appreciable difference in the sound if the woods are the same. I think what I'm trying to say here is if you have a 3mm thick solid piece of mahogany back and sides, and you have a 3mm thick plywood mahogany back and sides, it's good quality ply, I don't think you'll hear a difference. I really don't think. Prove me wrong. Dita freely admits when he's wrong if you can prove it. Okay, so I'm just speculating here, but in my experience, because I have plywood back and sides, I don't have, all my tops are solid tops, so you don't screw around with that. But back and sides, I don't hear or feel an appreciable difference. So anyway, I played this thing. Oh, this is really beautiful. So I bought it, and I go, well, you bought a $3,200 guitar as a beginner. Well, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, the thing with this was, after about 5 months, he just couldn't get the hang of it. So I was surprised. He called me up and he says, Randall, do you want to buy that guitar? I said, well, it's a beautiful guitar. I picked it out. I said, why don't you, I said, classicals are usually harder to sell. I said, why don't you just, advertise it and wait till you'll get a buyer eventually. And so he did that for a couple of weeks, and then he called me. He said, I'll give you a good price on it. I said, well, I don't really need one. I can't really afford one, which is the truth. But then he said, well, $1,500. So I scraped it up, although it was a bit tight to do. So, you get a brand new 32, what this was 36 out the door. For $1,500, I'm not going to say no. And I don't feel I ripped him off. Well, he offered. So, did I get a deal? Yeah, I got a deal. I wasn't looking for it. And he kind of really said, no, I'll give you a really good deal. I said, yeah, I understand that, but I don't need another classical guitar. I've got 2 good classicals, but so that's why I have this. So it's not one that I went out to buy, but it's one that I picked out for a client. But this is about the pickup. So the prefix, yeah, it's a good pickup. What I do like about it, it has the 1/4-inch mic has a gooseneck, so you can fiddle around. You can hear it and play with that to optimize the tone. I recently put new strings on all these, so they go out of tune easily. again, it's got so treble, contour, bass, and blend. So this is flat. That's the treble boosted. So that is the microphone. That's the piezo type thing, and that's them at half. Bass boost, mid, everything boosted. It's a very powerful guitar, very powerful pickup, and yeah, the thing, especially when you change nylon strings, they're very susceptible to the environment, and so, you know, most classical players know this. When you change your nylon strings, you spend the better part of a day constantly tuning the guitar. Yeah. Still not there. That's better. Again, a beautiful guitar. I got a lot of beautiful guitars, and I can't say I play it as much as I should, but that this is the thing with all my guitars. I have 28, and why I don't get rid of any is because even though I don't get around with them sometimes for a long time, especially now since they're pretty much all packed away, but I play and go, yeah, this is sweet. So just an aside, I'm not saying, you know, go get 28 guitars, and I don't say that as bragging rights, but I've been fiddling around with guitars for most of my life, and so, you know, I'm 67 years old, so if you've been fiddling around for 30 years, you're going to acquire some things. Now, I know a lot of people buy and sell. I'm just not into that. I spend a lot of time, not a great player, but I know what I like, and I spend a lot of time picking these out, and so I don't want to part with them because they're all good. So, and what I'm saying get over is like, oh, well, it's the best guitar. That's it. Just it. Now, I freely admit the best sounding steel string I've ever heard is an HG 56 Boucher, and that's just been my experience. So, you know, that's why I say that. I'm not saying it's the best guitar ever made. It's the best one I've heard, and the best classical I've heard is the luthier model of this company, Alhambra. I'm not saying it's better than a good $20,000 one-off that some classical musician has, but I haven't played that guitar and I haven't heard it. So these videos, why I think they're of some value to the average Joe or Jane that's getting interested in the guitars, because they're just my honest feedback and my experience. That's the only thing that I'm an expert on is my experience, no one else's. So hope that helps. So to prefix premium blend, yeah, definitely a good pickup. So, you know, Fishman makes some good pickups, LR Bags makes some good pickups, K&K make some good pickups. So and I have those in all of my guitars, so eventually we'll get around to reviewing them all. So have a good day, and ciao for now. Data out.